Clacker the Geek here, welcome back to a brand new video, and now, Marvel Phase 4 has officially begun. Yeah, the new Disney Plus series WandaVision has ended, so I'm going to be doing a TV discussion review on it. Now, I'm going to do this a bit differently. I'm mainly going to be looking at each episode and talking about my thoughts on them, and then at the end I'll just give my overall rating on the show. But quickly, for those who don't know, WandaVision is the new Disney Plus Marvel show starring Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch and Paul Bettany as Vision, and it's after Avengers Endgame, looking at how Wanda's dealt with it, and the loss of Vision, and it's sort of presented as like an American sitcom, and slowly throughout the series you learn what's really going on. So yeah. Oh, and if it wasn't already obvious, let's get into it. So yeah, episode 1 of the series, this is the starting point obviously. The first bit of Marvel we'd had since July 2019, just to put it in perspective, Theresa May was still Prime Minister, and what did I think of it? It was a bit uneventful, wasn't it? Now don't get me wrong, the presentation of it was amazing. I'm a bit of a fan of old TV, I do like it, so the aspect ratio, the black and white, the fact that they actually did film it in front of a live studio audience, I think, the costumes, the wigs, the hair, the makeup, and even the corny acting makes it feel very authentic, and a lot of effort went into it. But the actual plot and story was just really uneventful. It was Vision's boss going around for dinner, and it was really dull, wasn't it? Like, you can't just fill it with just that. You've got to have a bit of intrigue in there. And for me, there wasn't really much. So looking at the episode after all the hype had died down, wasn't a fan of it. Next we have episode 2, and which was released on the same day as episode 1. Now, I think this is what the series should have started on, because it's everything about the first episode, but refined. The presentation's better. The storyline of like the magic show is a bit more interesting, I felt, and it kind of suited Wanda and Vision because they are kind of magical characters. I think it worked well, and there's some really good hints. Like in the picture there's Wanda seeing a colour helicopter in a black and white world, or the voice on the radio, or the guy in the bee catcher costume at the end. It was everything about the first episode but refined, and it was a lot better. Another thing that I liked about this episode is I liked some of the animation segments that they did. So yeah, while not mind-blowing still, it was still fairly middle of the road. It was a lot better than the first episode, and it's what I think the series should have started on. Next, episode 3. Now, I love the emphasis on this one of it being in colour, because back in the 1970s, because obviously these episodes are going in the decades, episode 1 was the 50s, a second episode 60s, this is the 70s, and colour TV was very much a selling point back then, so I love the emphasis on that. The kind of sitcom stuff was also very good, and I like how you see sort of the cracks in the world that Wanda's created. It's really good, and how you sort of see Vision become a bit more suspicious than the neighbours. I really like that scene, and especially when you get to the end you find out what's going on, and I think it was really good. So yeah, this is a very good episode, I thought. So, episode 4. Now, this is a bit of more of an exposition episode. It was set outside of the Hex and follows, like, what this new team, SWORD, are doing, and, like, they're investigating. Now, I think this episode really needed this point, because after 3 straight sitcom episodes, we needed someone to explain what was going on, and it is an MCU thing after all, and I think this was brilliantly done. The tone of the episode was great. It was more serious than this one, and I did like it. It was great seeing some, like, smaller characters make a comeback, like Jimmy Woo from the Ant-Man movies, or Darcy from the Thor movies, and obviously Monica Rambeau from Captain Marvel all grown up. It was cool seeing some of the more smaller faces of the MCU. And also that opening scene where, the aftermath of Endgame with the snap and stuff was brilliantly done. And this was just a great episode, and it really started to show some of Wanda's dark side, and I thought it was great. So episode 5, this is kind of back to the sitcom stuff. It was more the 80s now, 80s, 90s, so akin to something like Family Ties, and yeah, the sitcom stuff was very good again, and this was a really good character one. I felt you get to explore the characters of Wanda and Vision and their emotional sides and their arcs really well. Wanda showing more of a dark side, and she's got a sort of control over this place, and she goes and confronts the guards, and yeah, it was really good. And I love how Vision's sort of picking up on the fact that this isn't right, and he confronts her about it. What always stands out to me is that scene at the end where Wanda tries to avoid an argument by rolling the end credits, and they just stop immediately and they just have an argument. It's a really good scene, and I think shows off the characters very well. I think having the sitcom stuff as well as the real world stuff side by side, it helps keep the pacing, very fast paced, and it helps keep it moving and not a slog. And my god, that cliffhanger, Evan Peters, the X-Men Quicksilver from the Fox movies, back. I can't even describe how it felt watching that. The amount of theories and the possibilities this could have provided, it was absolutely incredible. It was just shocking. Episode 6 now, this sort of Halloween kind of thing, I think the 2000s sort of thing. This is probably my favourite episode. I think it's just the whole package. The sitcom stuff was great, very akin to something like Malcolm in the Middle with like the, breaking the fourth wall and, the very fast-paced nature of it. Very good. I love the Halloween aesthetic of it, with the colourful costumes. It gives it a lot of character and life and colour to it. And the costumes that, WandaVision and Quicksilver wear, nice nod to their comic book appearances. Now this is the episode where we properly see Evan Peters as Quicksilver again, and his charm and charisma and comedic timing, it's just so infectious, and he's a pure delight to watch every time. I think the pacing was very good, with the, there's obviously the sitcom stuff and the real world stuff keeps it, keeps it going afloat. I love Vision's little subplot of him investigating what's going on, and there's some really creepy horror imagery as well, with like people frozen in time. It's really creepy, and it's just the whole package, and yeah, I've got to say, this is my favourite one of the series. Episode 7 now, and I've got to be honest, I was quite disappointed with this one, and I wish I wasn't, because the 2010s kind of sitcom, the mockumentary style, like akin to The Office or Parks and Rec, it seemed right up my alley, the directly addressing the audience. It seemed right up my alley, I did like that kind of sitcom stuff, but I feel like it intruded with the overall story, and it just felt a bit unnecessary, unfortunately. And we get the plot twist in this episode at the end with Agnes, the nosy neighbour character, turning out to be the real villain, Agatha Harkness, who I'd never heard of in the comics. Now, this reveal had a great setup, very horror-esque, but the actual reveal, when they started playing this song, and while the song is very catchy, it didn't really connect with me. And I initially thought, it's probably because I haven't really heard of this comic book character, but thinking about it, it didn't, what has she actually done other than kill a puppy? She didn't really do anything evil, and I don't know, it didn't really feel, I don't know, it was just a big disappointment this episode was for me. Episode 8 now, the penultimate episode, and this is a very good one. It sort of shows a bit of Wanda's backstory, as a child, and explains some of the things in the series, like why is it like a sitcom, or some of the other things, and yeah, it was really good. I think Agatha Harkness was a very good villain, quite creepy and intimidating, and I think by ditching the sitcom stuff here, it helped the episode a great deal, because the emotional stuff, the horror stuff, the more powerful stuff that was meant to hit hard, it hits hard, and it's not undercut by a joke or any of this bonkers stuff. And I think it was just a very good setup and leading very well into the finale. Speaking of which, episode 9, the series finale, that's literally what the episode is called, and it is the end of the series, and this was a very satisfying finale for me. Now, I did see a lot of disappointment around this episode, and a lot of it seemed to be the fact that it didn't, their people's fan theories weren't correct, and I don't think a TV show should pander necessarily to that. I think it needs to just tell its own story, and if it was disappointing for you, then fair enough, but I wouldn't get too, I wouldn't get your hopes too hoped up for like a fan theory, because if it doesn't come true, it'll inevitably disappoint. Anyway, this episode, yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. The action was great, the character stuff was great, even if it is like a sort of, a cloud in the sky, the visuals were really, really good, and I think, for the most part, with the exception of a couple of little loose ends like the Quicksilver stuff, I think it wrapped everything up, in a satisfying manner, and the emotional stuff as well. I think that's where this episode shined the most, the emotional stuff of Wanda having to choose whether to save everyone in the town or to lose her family, which, after being in the town, it's a really good emotional dilemma, and it gives nice closure to the series and to Wanda and Vision's character arcs. Wanda lost Vision in Infinity War, and it's a nice sort of chance to say goodbye to Vision, and that's really nice. So let's quickly wrap up what I'm overall I think of the series. Now, while not all of the episodes were great, I don't think you can judge a TV show just on its episodes alone, and especially if it's like a serialised thing where it's one big story spread across multiple parts. I think you've got to look at it as a whole as well. And overall, I've loved this series. Honestly, I have. It's something a bit weird and different and experimental for the MCU, and somewhat totally unique to this and this alone. I love the idea of, the sitcom kind of stuff. The character stuff was brilliant, especially with Wanda and Vision. And someone has said this online before, but the idea that, this is about like sort of Wanda's kind of depression and grief after losing Vision in Infinity War and Endgame. And you know what? I'm no psychologist, but that works really well. You see the different stages of depression, different types of it. And then at the end, the acceptance and the goodbye. I was kind of apprehensive of Vision coming back, but they've done it in a way which I'm happy with here. And it was just something to look forward to every Friday. Every Friday we can stick on some, a new bit of MCU stuff. And it was just fun, enjoyable, interesting, unique, and I loved it. So overall, I'll give it a score of an 8.5 out of 10. Possibly a 9, but yeah, I'll stick with an 8.5. I loved it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have you seen WandaVision? If you have, do you like it? Do you not? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And this is Clack of the Geek signing out. Goodbye, everyone.